You've heard a lot of conversation about the borders. You've heard a lot of politicians. You've heard me talk about it an awful lot about why these borders need to come down. I don't say it because I'm a selfish bloke who desperately wants to go on holidays, but it's because we got that call a few weeks ago, and we talk about it all the time, from Chris. Chris was a bloke who sold everything he owned in Victoria to go and buy a holiday park up in Cairns. Now, obviously, these sorts of businesses, they run from holiday event to family event, from family event to long weekend. And they've lost the June long weekend. They lost Mother's Day. They lost school holidays. They lost Easter. For some, they lost Ramadan. For some, they lost family occasions. Australia has done an amazing job when it comes to beating coronavirus. And that's one thing that was really clear talking to a lot of people today, was that they all wanted to say how good all of these different governments have gone. And they weren't saying it because they wanted to suck up. We are proud of what we've done. But the over-cautious attitude of keeping these borders up is destroying businesses, and it's tearing this particular community apart. Now, you might think that that's all a little over the top. Again, have a look at the physical border that says you can't drive from one side of the road to the other. Have a look at the checkpoints that, as if they were set up for sort of high security places. This is one side of a suburb to another side of a suburb. In Queensland, there's one person who has coronavirus who's in hospital. They had another case today, but guess what? It was somebody in a hotel room who was already there because they'd come in from overseas. In New South Wales, they have not had anything outside of those quarantine hotels for 2 weeks. We know how to do this. We deserve the chance to do this, and most importantly, these businesses deserve to know not vague maybe, but exactly when they can start to get going again. Because unlike government, they don't have a guaranteed wage to put off for another 2 weeks. Unlike people in the media, there won't just be something else to do tomorrow. These are normal people who have followed the rules. And in this country, if you follow the rules, you get to keep playing the game. And that's all these people want to do. We spoke to a couple of people on either side of the borders who all have the same perspective. Please, let us get back to life as normal.
At the moment, we're operating on about 30%. So we normally have around 30 to 40 staff, and we're operating on about 10 now.
So give us an idea about, this time last year, what sort of trade are you doing?
This time last year, we'd be at full capacity, and, we have, 40 staff. Normally we have things like winter sun here at this time of the year. People come from all over Australia to come here. That's who's missing out on coming to Coolangatta. Coolangatta is such a fantastic place.
It's this thing, how do you feel when you see the Premier every morning? Have you given up waiting to hear what the date is?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Palaszczuk government for keeping Queensland safe. However, it's now time to open the borders. It's now time to get Queensland back to being number one in Australia.
Bloody oath. I'd like to this is how close I can be. Matt, give me an idea about your business and about what's been happening for you. What would normally be happening this time of the year?
Normally, we'd have 10 to 12 staff on a day. We'd be, doing probably 60, 70 plus cars a day. At the moment, we're sort of about 50%, and we've just got half of our clients come from the Queensland side of the border, and they can't travel for our business because it's not essential. Because
that's the thing, isn't it? With the New South Wales side of things, where the restrictions are, an area where, look, it's busy by Tweed Head standards, but it's crazy. It's sort of Sydney standards now because of all of the different choke points. How long would it take you to travel just a few hundred metres with all of these roadblocks up?
At the wrong time of day, it can take you 45 minutes to go what would normally be a 2-minute trip.
What about the people around you? Are they at a point where they're frustrated, they're pissed off, they're willing to give up, they've got not much more left?
Well, I haven't spoken to a single person who thinks the borders should stay closed, so I'm not sure where the information's coming from that it's supported. This doesn't make any sense to me. Infections are low. In a month's time, if they're still like this, does that mean they keep it closed?
Yeah, it's that thing too. It's like with Tony, give us an idea about your business and about the types of things that you're having to deal with at the moment.
Yeah, I'm a hotel owner just down the road. We're about 10% of our normal revenue, so most of our guests are either international travellers or domestic. You know, this time of year, a lot of Melbourne and Victorians come up.
So, like, when you heard September, could you hold on till September if it was September?
The most important thing is the certainty of when we're going to be open, because we need to plan for that. We can't just sort of turn the switch and just open back to normal. It's, you know, we just need some certainty of when it's going to be.
You know, these premiers can't just turn up on a Friday and say, congratulations, you're all back in business on Saturday. The truth is that, you know, I keep talking about July the 1st because it's 19 days away, right? It's 19 days away. It should be now, but it's 19 days away. The 2-week cycles of virus, all the rest of it here. How much time would you need to get up and running?
To be back to our full operation, probably 4 weeks.
Really?
And I need to recruit a whole lot of staff to be able to just physically deal with the capacity. You know, a lot of the staff, you know, half our staff are casuals, and a lot of them are international travellers. They've all gone back.
Vanessa, your business is famous in this part of Australia, and it has been closed all the way through this.
We shut down on the 23rd of March. We're still not open. We finally got the word last week that we can open on Saturday, so that's exciting news, but only to social play at this point. Right. So that's 100 people allowed in our square meterage for the building. But of course, then when we open to leagues, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, even with leagues and social play, a lot of our customers, at least half, are tourists or come across the border from Queensland. So, I mean, we've all just faced the most difficult challenge professionally and personally as business owners. We're now trying to rebuild a business when we're allowed to open, and we're then hitting that wall of not having half of the customers that we would normally have. Because
it's that thing, isn't it? I mean, literally. So I'd be staying at Tony's joint, but
you're really not supposed to come across the border.
Unless it's essential, I can't walk from one side of the road to the other. So even if there were people here with the intrastate travel, they're not able to make their way across to go 10-pin bowling, and certainly not in competition.
Well, is it not since the 1st of June that anybody in Australia can travel anywhere in New South Wales now?
In New South Wales they can,
yes.
Sure, but not from Coolangatta across.
But you can't. You can holiday there, but you can't come across.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Steve, tell me about the roller coaster of the past few months. Is it sort of confusion, pissed off? What's the feeling?
We join the dots here in Coolangatta, from Christmas to the local surf comp, which is the Quickie Pro, then it goes into Easter, and then it goes into Mother's Day, then it goes to Coolie Rocks On, and these are the things that get us through into winter. If we can't join the dots, we've got nothing.
Because there's the thing, you've been denied the dots of school holidays before, Mother's Day before, Easter. I mean, you've already lost a few in a month of, 12 different dots.
That's right. It's the people that haven't been able to be employed, because I've only employing 10 people instead of 30. So there's 20 people that, that haven't got income.
I know this is not a fun question to ask, but it's the real one. What was it like to lay people off?
It's not very nice, I can tell you now. These are struggling families when they're working. So imagine what it's like when they're not working.
So do you try to stay in touch to say, look, as soon as?
We do. We're a very close-knit family here in Coolangatta Tweed. The majority of people I employ come from New South Wales, so they have to come across the border.
What about for you, Matt, that experience of, do you try to stay in touch with the people who you hope to bring back?
I mean, it's never nice having that conversation. Fortunately there was some extra support for some of those people, but we're similar in that we had foreign workers who were long-term foreign workers, and we ended up having to make the decision that we'd keep them on and pay them out of our pocket to keep them here, because it's just not right.
Good stuff. Vanessa, how did you pick who got JobKeeper and who's going to have to wait?
We had held a staff meeting on the Sunday, and at that point it was just to tell everyone that they'd had reduced hours. But by the time the staff meeting started, it was basically to say, you now have no jobs. Because we didn't know anything about JobKeeper at that point, basically everyone was given a separation certificate to say, because we thought that would be how they could get benefits. because we knew that they'd have to line up. We didn't know when we were going to be allowed to reopen. So in the end, they just didn't qualify because I had done what I thought was the correct thing to do in giving them separation certificates.
If you could say something to someone in power, do you want to say it to the Prime Minister, the Premier of Queensland, the Premier of South Australia, the local people of New South Wales? Say whatever you want to whoever you want.
I would like the Premier of Queensland to let the power trip go now. You've had your time. It's time to open up the borders.
Yeah, on the same boat. Whoever in the government said they deny that the border restrictions are causing financial difficulties, I'd like to know what planet you're living on.
Steve?
Now is the time, now is the opportunity. Let's use this opportunity to move forward.
The problem we've got now is that for 3 or 4 cases in the state active at the moment, we're in a situation where we're asking businesses to hold their breath for we don't know how long. And you know as well as I do, if you hold your breath long enough, you'll flatline too.
I'm with you, mate. When you saw those protesters, how'd you feel?
I think that there are issues across the whole world that need to be aerated and ventilated, but that wasn't the right way to go about it. I think at the end of the day, we all understand that there are a lot of issues in the world. Even the way other countries are dealing with COVID is an issue. But you've got to go about it the right way, and you've got to keep everybody safe, and you've got to think about safety first every time, which is what's been happening. But now we've got to the stage where, certainly in Queensland, we can't keep the border closed for too much longer because it's going to mean that we're all hurting more than we need to. And the problem we see is that in the next quarter we should be taking 3.7 billion from Australian tourists coming from interstate. If those tourists aren't allowed to come to Queensland, that's $3.7 billion that we've got to find to replace it. And it's $3.7 billion that can't be spent on helping businesses to actually thrive.
Well, one and all, thank you very much. I'd shake your hand, but you know there's a fine if that happens, let alone... No. All right, plenty more here on Paul Murray Live. I'm keen to know what you think. Send me an email, paul@skynews.com.au. Premier, these are the normal people, real people. July the 1st, 19 days away, for God's sake, let's get on with it. You got one person in hospital, you got a case today, and they are in a hotel. As for the protesters, they can get stuffed. Time for Australia to get back to work.